City Hall, are you broadcasting audio right now? If so, it's completely quiet.
Yeah, we haven't started yet, Adam. I'm about to. By the weather outside. Good morning. My name is Julia Rady and I'm the chair of the Toronto Preservation Board. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I will now call meeting 38 of the TPB to order. Welcome everyone. This is a hybrid meeting with some members, staff, and public attending in person and others connecting by video conference over the WebEx platform or calling in. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Because we are meeting in person and remotely, we ask for your patience with any delays and technical issues. Fear not, I will let you know if we are having them and we'll keep things running. If you are registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will call speakers in the order they appear on the list, and the list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Toronto Preservation Board at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. I would like to request that staff and invited participants, as well as all observers joining remotely, keep their video turned off unless they need to speak or answer questions. This will make it easier for me to see, as chair, to see the members as we debate and vote on the agenda items. Members, for quorum purposes and participation in the meeting, it is important for you to keep your cameras on. I like to see your lovely faces. I also ask that your microphones are muted unless you wish to speak or question staff or speak to an item. To ensure we have an efficient meeting with board members having equal opportunity to ask questions or speak on an item, I will run the timer for 5 minutes. Members will have up to 5 minutes each to ask questions of staff and speak on an item. And as a reminder, motions need to be moved at the beginning of a member's speaking time. Please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at hertpb@toronto.ca to help with the motions. If members wish to speak on an item, please raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I will create a speakers list. When voting on an item or a motion, I ask members to raise your hand to indicate your vote, and if there is a recorded vote, you will be asked to state if you are in favor or opposed. Members, the city clerk has provided all agenda materials at toronto.ca/council. So although we may be meeting in different locations today, the Preservation Board would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. At this time, are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate the item number and the nature of the interest. Are there any declarations? Seeing none. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meeting on November 18th, 2025? Jeff, thank you very much. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you so much. So I'd like to draw your attention to one new agenda item which we will need to vote to introduce before we can take action. It's PB 38.4 180 Queens Drive, Notice of Intention to Designate a Property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. I have submitted a letter with recommendations that the board introduce and consider this report at today's meeting. Are there any questions or discussion? This is on just introducing the item. Are all those in favor of introducing the item? Show of hands, please. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And now that item is part of today's agenda, and I'd like to propose that we reorder it and have it as our first item today, if that's... Are we all good, my fellow members, of reordering the agenda? Thank you. I'm just going to take that. So now let's proceed to the agenda review. So our first item will be PB 38.4180 Queens Drive, Notice of Intention to Designate a Property under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. There is no presentation on this item. However, planning staff are available to answer questions from the board. Would anybody care to hold this item? Seeing none, I have a staff report with recommendations before me. Would anybody like to move the recommendations in this report? Adam, all those in favor, please? Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next item is PB 38.1, 409 Huron Street, Alterations and Demolition of Heritage Attributes of a designated heritage property under Section 33 and 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act, and authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement. We have a consultant registered to speak on this item. Can I just confirm that it's just to answer questions and there is no presentation? Aaron.
That's correct. I'm just here to answer questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We have a presentation from planning staff available if we would like to hear it. Would anybody like to hold this item? Adam. Okay. Motion that's held. Moving on to PB 38.2, Bloor West Village Heritage Conservation District Study, final report. We have a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if we would like to hear it. Would anybody like to hold this item? Yes, Paul, thank you. Then we have PB 38.3, the University Avenue Cultural Heritage Landscape Study. We have speakers registered on this item, so I will hold it. And now we are going to move back to PB 38.2. Sorry, because we reordered it. I'm getting there. Point 1, 409 Huron Street. I'm with it, I swear. And we have a presentation from staff on this one. Perfect. Welcome, and I'll turn the floor over to you, to Ragini.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. It's Ragini Dayal from Heritage Planning. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, thank you. This report recommends that City Council approve an application under Section 33 and Section 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act to alter and demolish heritage attributes of a designated heritage property at 409 Huron Street in connection with a zoning bylaw amendment and an official plan amendment application on the subject property, and that Council grant authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement. Next slide, please. Located on the east side of Huron Street, south of Bloor Street West, the property includes a Queen Anne Revival-style detached house that was constructed in 1903. The building was designed by Frederick Henry Herbert, an accomplished architect who practiced in Toronto in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The building forms part of a Victorian streetscape on Huron Street within the Huron-Sussex neighborhood, and it is designated under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Next slide, please. The city received a zoning bylaw amendment application in 2019 and received an official plan amendment application on March 24, 2023, related to the proposed development of the subject property to permit an 11-story residential building. These are photos of the house taken from Huron Street. On the left is the primary elevation, and you can see the side or north elevation in the lower slide to the right. Next slide, please. The proposed plans, the current application integrates a new 11-story L-shaped building to the east and north sections of the site. The image on the left shows the proposed development that includes the in situ retention of the house and the principal elevations, the west, and then 11.5 meters of the north and south elevations of the existing house. No new construction is proposed directly above this house. The location of the house on the site will include a front yard and a pathway leading to its primary entry. Next slide, please. This slide, shows the roof plan. So you can see that much of the roof will be retained. It's to be reconstructed and then connected to the new development to the east and north. Next slide, please. The next few slides show elevations of the proposed development, with the Heritage House form building continuing to be located in situ on the southwest side of the property. The new construction will cantilever forward from the rear addition 3 meters from the 7th to 11th floors. Next slide, please. This is the south elevation in the left image and the primary elevation on the right. Enlargement of the same elevation for you. Next slide, please. This is the image of the north elevation that will be retained with the reconstructed hip roof. And the image to the right is a section through the new construction showing the retained house form building to the right. Next slide, please. This is a conservation strategy, and the illustrations have been provided by ERA architects. The image to the left shows the retention of the primary elevation. The stairs are not original to the house and will be removed and reconstructed, and the hip roof will be reconstructed as well. The image to the upper right shows the north elevation with the 1955 addition that will be removed, and the addition is not part of the attributes of this property. The lower slide shows the south elevation and with the removed addition to the right. Next slide, please. This is the upper slide is the site plan, and the lower elevation shows the in situ retention of the northwest and south elevations. Next slide, please. Through revisions to the application, Heritage Planning staff are satisfied that the proposal conserves the designated heritage property and is consistent with the policy framework. The heritage impacts of the development proposal are appropriately mitigated through the overall conservation strategy. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a speaker on this item who is just here to answer questions. I'll just wait for my board to come up. Marvelous. Do we have any questions for our speaker? Yes, Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Virginia, for that presentation. I do have a few questions. I'm trying to group these together in terms of theme, perhaps. Let's start with the reconstruction and the preservation ones. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the preservation of the side gable. In some of the renderings, it looks as if a portion of the side gable is obstructed from the contemporary addition. In others, it is completely clear with a line of sight.
I think that would be a question for ERA.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're right now right, we'll get back to you, but we are going to just ask questions of ERA right now because Erin's registered to speak.
Okay.
Take it away, Erin.
Great. Is there any chance we could pull that elevation back up just to be sure what we're talking about here?
There is a discrepancy that our panel had noted between the renderings on the architectural drawings versus the architectural renderings.
Mm-hmm.
Can we pull up the slide for that one? Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right.
I'm just wondering, is this a question of because it's a section versus the being shown differently in each section?
Essentially, how much of that north gable is going to be visible on the side of the building, and how much is obstructed from line of sight with the contemporary addition?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, because of the L shape of the new construction, if you're just due north of the building, you might just see perhaps, I'm just trying to, 2.5 meters of that. But if you're in the sort of landscaped area in the front, you will see 11.5 meters of it, if that makes sense. Sorry, no, you're just talking about the gable, but yeah, there will be a difference in what you can see from the north side.
Okay, and in these drawings right here, are we seeing the 2.5 meters or the 11.5 meters? This looks as if it's due north.
Yes, exactly. So the one on the left, that's what you would see if you were in the landscape. Sorry.
Because I'm seeing a rendering here showing the entirety of the building, and we wouldn't see that if we were in the internal landscape courtyard. It would be to our rear, would it not?
No, I think, sorry, I'm just trying to see the. Just from my view, I think you would see the entirety of it if you were in the center. We do have another.
Could we kindly pull up the overview of the main floor again that shows that landscape interior area in relation to that north gable and the heritage attributes? That one there on the top, because I can see that there's a landscape internal courtyard between the orange and the blue. So if you were standing in that space, you would see the entirety of the gable, but you would have the contemporary building to your rear. And our concern was that those renderings depict it as a continuous view, and there's no distinction between what you see behind you and what you would see in front of you. And that obstructed line of sight of the partial gable, 2.5 meters versus 11 or 12 meters, is quite a discrepancy in what you would see visible of that north elevation and those attributes on the north side of the building.
Yes, I see what you're saying. These are the drawings we got from Mar Architect, so I can't really exactly speak to how they produced the renderings or how accurate they were, but I see what you're saying.
It's a discrepancy of seeing, 80% of the building being obstructed versus, only being able to see 20% of it versus being able to see the entirety of that north side. If it's okay, I might jump into the next question. It does relate to this one, unless any of the other board members have a question. Is that okay, Madam Chair?
If it's quickly asked, Adam, because you're 5-minute sort of period, and I want to be able to give other people an opportunity to say something. So can you ask it quickly, and then we'll move on?
Okay, thank you. Could you speak a little bit more about the cantilever over the Heritage House and the blank wall, the white materiality? What exactly is that? And the width of the entryway and the line of sight.
Okay, that's 3 questions. I'll speak first to the materiality. That has not been fully confirmed yet. What we know so far is that it will be white and gray, perhaps some kind of ACL panels, something that is contemporary but doesn't clash with the heritage materiality or that of the Huron Sussex neighborhood. For the width of the entryway, do you mind if we go back to basically I'm not sure if it will answer your question, but our approach for the entryway was to restore its original condition as an open porch. So yes, we are altering that from its current condition, but it is in order to restore it to an original condition. But perhaps
Thank you. And the width of the landscaped entryway for the contemporary edition, which I would presume would be the main barrier-free access point for the building.
I think it's 2.5 meters. I can try to look at my. I'm just pulling up the report. I can't quite see the dimensions from the screen. Oh, it's more like 3 meters actually, that the width of the landscaped entryway.
Thank you.
Are we, Adam, I think the question has been answered as you've asked it?
It has been answered. I will be bringing a motion forward to clerks by email, and then also I do have 2 follow-up questions for staff once we get to that portion. Thank you.
Okay, so Adam, just to keep things rolling along, because you need to introduce your motion at the beginning of your speaking time when we move into discussion. So if you could put that into wording to clerks now, so that
I'm working on that as we speak.
Fantastic. And then we'll move into questions of staff. Do we have other questions for our speaker? Seeing none, we're moving into questions of staff. Thank you very much for your time, Erin.
Thank you so much.
Questions of staff. Okay, Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff, thank you for being here today, everyone. In some of the earlier heritage documents, we have reference to a Huron-Sussex area of special identity. I see that we're no longer seeing reference to that. Is there a reason for that, if I may ask?
Sorry, is that something that you read in the report?
The earlier designation report references an area of special identity. The subsequent report does not.
This report does reference the Huron-Sussex neighborhood, and that is part of the U of T secondary plan.
Is there a specific Huron-Sussex area of special identity?
I believe so, within the U of T secondary plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yep.
Adam?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding the roof reconstruction, if you could speak a little bit more in detail about the roof reconstruction, what is meant by reconstruction of the hip roof, and will you be encouraging the applicants to use the historic materiality, such as slate or cedar, which may have been on the original building? It's my understanding that the original architectural drawings have survived for this building.
Yes, it's my understanding as well. And the roof needs to be reconstructed because it needs to meet the Ontario Building Code requirements. And given that it will be attached to new construction at the rear.
Other questions for staff? Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During I believe it was 2022, when this came through for designation, a request was made to have the laneway house evaluated at 100 BP Nickel Lane. Is there any update on that? There's a coach house at the rear of this property.
No, I don't have an update for you on that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Regini. And I'm going to just take this very brief moment before we move into discussion, because this is our last report with Regini, who is retiring at the end of January after 15 years of service. So congratulations. Thank you for everything you've done for the city, and a little round of applause.
Thank you so much.
We wish you the best.
It's been my honor. Thank you.
Now moving on to discussion amongst ourselves. That's a sharp left turn, everybody. Anyway, discussion amongst ourselves.
Madam Chair, I have sent the motion over to the clerks, and I'm waiting to hear back regarding potential wording.
Give me 1 moment to see that if it's been received, and if need be, I'll table this.
Thank you.
I'm going to table this item as we sort of work through a few things on the back end here. Moving on now to PB 38.2, the Bloor West Village Heritage Conservation District Study Final Report. And we welcome to the floor Purya.
Good morning, excuse me. Good morning, everyone. I'm Purya Nazemi. I'm a senior heritage planner with Heritage Planning, and I'll be presenting the final report of the Bloor West Village Heritage Conservation District study, along with its key findings and recommendations. The Bloor West Village HCD study area includes properties fronting Bloor Street West from Keel Street in the east to the Humber River in the west, excluding High Park. The area features a diverse range of building typologies with apartment buildings concentrated at the eastern and western ends, and a collection of commercial Main Street buildings defining the core village area. Next, please. In November 2017, Stantec was retained to conduct the HCD study, and the study included surveying, analyzing, and evaluating the area, as well as gathering community feedback through public engagement and a community advisory group. The Avenue study began earlier in December 2016 with DTAH retained by City Planning. Their report was completed in 2018. Since 2018, the Avenue study has faced several delays. It was transferred from the Etobicoke York District to the Toronto and East York District following ward boundary changes in 2018. The onset of the COVID-19 in early 2020 further contributed to delays. In addition, planning policy has shifted significantly since the initial work between 2016 and 2018. Stantec's HCD study report was completed in April 2021, and reporting on the HCD study was delayed to align with the Avenue study and the development of urban design guidelines that incorporated the HCD study recommendations. The urban design guidelines were adopted by Toronto and East York County Council at its meeting on November 27th. Next, please. The HCD study process included 2 community consultation meetings along with 3 community advisory group meetings in 2018 and 2019. A separate meeting was also held with the Bloor West Village BIA in April 2019. Heritage Planning played an active role in the public engagement process for the Avenue study. A 4th public meeting held as part of the Avenue study took place in October 2024, and at this meeting, the HCD study recommendations and other heritage matters were presented. Heritage Planning also actively participated in the local advisory committee meetings for the Avenue study in 2024 and 2025, and in a pop-up engagement event at the Ukrainian Festival in September 2025. In addition, a draft of the urban design guidelines was circulated to the Huron Wendat, Six Nations of the Grand River Territory, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for comment, and the feedback received was addressed. Next, please. The study area's development spans 7 key periods from indigenous presence to the modern-day intensification. Each period reflects important shifts in settlement, infrastructure, and community growth, shaping the area's evolving character. Next, please. The study area is located within the Iroquois Plain physiographic region of southern Ontario, within the Sand Plains landform. Its western edge is defined by the Humber River, which serves as a natural boundary to the area. The river also marks the southern end of the Toronto Carrying Place Trail, an important trade route for Indigenous peoples. Wendigo Creek, which was once crossed the study area on the west side of High Park, as shown on the map, was filled in the 1910s. Tiegan, a key indigenous village, was located just northwest of the study area in what is now the Babby Point area. Next, please. The study area is part of the former township of York in the former county of York. Proximity to the town of York, now Toronto, helped drive growth in the township. Immigration trends increased its population, making it the most populous township in the county by 1830. When York became the city of Toronto in 1834, the township became a key supplier of grain and lumber. The township of York was incorporated in 1850, with Bloor Street renamed in 1855, and subdivision of the area from South Kingsway to Windermere Avenue in the 1860s. However, the area remained largely rural. At this time, the main influences on the study area's development were High Park and West Toronto Junction. Next, please. The city of Toronto expanded through annexations, including West Toronto Junction in 1909 and south side of Bloor Street in 1920. Development along Bloor was delayed until improvements could be made to street conditions. These improvements started with the West Toronto Junction annexation that included a portion of the study area between Keele and Jane Streets. And this section received sewer lines, infill, and grading improvements. Next, please. The streetcar line was the most significant street improvement of the early 20th century. In 1914, the streetcar line became a city-funded project with the aim to foster further development along the future transit route. Once funding was secured, construction progressed steadily. The line was extended westward from Dundas in 1914, made double-tracked in 1915, further extended to Runnymede Road in 1917, and then to Jane Street in 1921. Next, please. The streetcar catalyzed the first major construction boom, improving accessibility and attracting commercial investment. By the 1920s, residential development north of Bloor was largely complete. This pushed new multi-residential walk-up apartments onto Bloor West. The boom ended in 1929 with the stock market crash. In the 1930s, automobile-related businesses like gas stations and garages began appearing, especially on the south side of Bloor. Next, please. Following World War II, waves of immigration, especially from Ukraine, reshaped the study area. In 1958, the Bloor-Dundas subway line was approved, completed to Keele in 1966, and extended westward in 1968. Business owners worried that easier access to downtown and suburban malls would lead shoppers away from Bloor West. In response, local businesses formed Toronto's first business improvement area in 1970, the first BIA in Canada. The BIA led streetscape improvements to reinforce a sense of place and pride in the local commercial district. Next, please. This map illustrates the area's annexations and amalgamations over time. The remaining parts of the study area, the village of Swansea, west of Hyde Park, and the city of York, north of Bloor, west of Jane Street, were amalgamated into Toronto in 1967 and 1998, respectively. Next, please. The HCD study analyzed the area's character to identify its defining features. It divides the study area into 6 distinct character areas based on consistent build form and landscape characteristics, and they include Humber River, West Gap, West Village, Village Main Street, East Village, and Hyde Park frontage. Next, please. The character analysis identified build form patterns across the study area. Most of Bloor West Village was developed between 1900 and 1939. The HCD study identified 4 key building typologies, including commercial Main Street rows and blocks, mainly in the Village Main Street character area, walk-up apartment buildings in the Hyde Park frontage and Humber River character areas, and local landmarks. Next, please. As shown on this map, lot patterns are categorized into 3 grain types: fine grain, intermediate, and coarse grain, each further distinguished as historic or contemporary. Fine grain properties are typically 2 to 3 stories high and clustered together, forming pedestrian-friendly blocks. These dominate the commercial heart of the study area. Next, please. The HCD study identifies Bloor West Village as an evolved and dynamic area shaped by continuous use and change. The area's build form retains a fine-grained historic pattern, primarily 2-story buildings that reflect its early development. In the Village Main Street character area, key character-defining elements include low-scale fine-grained commercial Main Street buildings with consistent setbacks, local landmark buildings, and T-intersections. These features create a distinct sense of place and reinforce the area's historical role as a main street with a village-like character. Next, please. Following an analysis of the study area's present-day character, historical development, and evolution, the HCD study evaluated the area against the criteria for designation as an HCD. The study confirms that the Village Main Street character area is a vibrant, dynamic, and evolving corridor valued by local community for its sense of place and historical significance. However, it concludes that the area's historic character is primarily associated with its historical, associative, contextual, social, and community values. While a portion of the Village Main Street character area reflect important historical, contextual, and social values, the area does not exhibit a strong architectural significance or distinction. Next, please. The Village Main Street area has functioned as a commercial main street with a village character since the early 20th century. This character is defined by its low-rise commercial form and fine-grained properties. However, the HCD study confirmed that most ground floor storefronts have been significantly altered and that many Main Street buildings have experienced overcladding and second-story window modifications. Following a comprehensive evaluation of the study area's character, history, and evolution, extensive discussions and site visits, and coordination with the Avenue study, the HCD study concludes that instead of pursuing Part 5 designation, the character-defining elements and sense of place of Bloor West Village would be better maintained and reinforced through the development of comprehensive area-specific urban design guidelines as part of the Avenue study. Next, please. The HCD study also identified 37 properties with potential cultural heritage value. Of these, 5 walk-up apartment buildings located in the High Park frontage character area were listed on the Heritage Register in February 2025. In the village Main Street character area, the identified heritage potential properties help anchor the area's historic Main Street character. They represent key building types and architectural styles and include several prominent corner buildings at T intersections. Next, please. Where development involves one or more of these identified heritage potential properties, a cultural heritage evaluation report will be required in accordance with OPA 720. And the study area currently contains 1 designated property, the former Runnymede Theater, and 6 listed properties. Next, please. Heritage planning staff played an active role throughout the Avenue study process to ensure the heritage conservation principles and recommendations were meaningfully incorporated into the urban design guidelines. The HCD study's findings directly informed the build form and public realm guidelines, ensuring that new development respects and reinforces the historic Main Street character while accommodating context-sensitive growth and density. The design guidelines include a range of heritage-related and context-sensitive build form directions applicable both across the broader guidelines area and within specific character areas. Next, please. The HCD study's findings have also informed the public realm guidelines, including identification of key views towards heritage landmarks and the location of gateways. Next, please. The HCD study also includes a number of other recommendations. It recognizes the cultural significance of High Park, even though the park is not within the study area boundary, and recommends undertaking a feasibility study to explore the potential for recognizing High Park as a cultural heritage landscape. The study also recommends the commemoration and interpretation of the area's historical themes, cultural groups, and key organizations through streetscape improvements and other public realm elements. It highlights the historical presence of the Ukrainian community and the Bloor West Village BIA, which was the first BIA established in Canada. Next, please. City planning staff concur with the HCD study's recommendations and conclude that Bloor West Village does not merit designation as an HCD. As an alternative, city staff have developed area-specific urban design guidelines and have identified a number of properties with potential heritage value. Heritage planning staff work closely with the Avenue study team to ensure that the urban design guidelines support the conservation and enhancement of the area's historic Main Street character and sense of place. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Do we have questions for staff? Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions, I hope these make sense. The first is, with respect to the properties that have been identified as potential designation candidates, is the intention that those be pursued actively, or is it a wait and see that when development applications are received, they're considered in that process? I'm just wondering if anything actively will be.
As I mentioned in the presentation, so when we receive a planning application for these properties and when a redevelopment involves one or more of these heritage potential properties, in accordance with OPA 720, which came into force in June 2024, as part of the application submission documents, we would require a cultural heritage evaluation report to further evaluate the property, and we would proceed with designation, listing and designation if the share report, based on the share report.
I see. Thank you. My second question is the report put a certain priority on corner buildings as important to define the built form going forward. I'm just wondering about, do the guidelines provide any direction about the consistency and the cohesiveness of mid-block commercial? A lot of the Main Street character comes from having whole blocks of small-scale retail, and I'm just wondering if that is being maintained or respected in going forward.
Yes. A list of character-defining elements of the Village Main Street character area has been provided, and we had meaningful discussions with our colleagues in the Avenue study, and we tried to incorporate all the findings and recommendations from the HCD study into the urban design guideline. In terms of the build form directions in the Village Main Street character area, the maximum height of the street wall for the future development would be 3 stories, and the language is from 2 to 3 stories, a variation from 2 to 3 stories of a street wall height in the village area. So the low scale character is one of the important character defining elements, along with the fine grain build form. So the future developments, the base building of the future development need to respect the fine grain character, existing fine grain character, along with the low scale character. So it would be maximum 3 story, along with appropriate transition to heritage building, including the corner buildings. So we try to incorporate build form directions to maintain and enhance the historic character, which is reflected in the fine grain build form and the low scale street wall.
Okay, thank you. And
I was just going to add, sorry, Tamara Anson-Cartwright, the program manager. I just wanted to acknowledge that while we make reference to the guidelines that went forward to Community Council recently, the Urban Design Guidelines, the matter before you is the Heritage Conservation District study itself and the conclusions and recommendations that we're dealing with. So for those of you who might on the board do not have the document that is being referenced separately, good questions, but I would encourage you to look to that report separately from the item today.
Okay. And I guess the last question I would have is the report acknowledges that the consultant study did draw a conclusion that there may be value in looking at this as a cultural heritage landscape. Is there any intention to pursue that going forward?
No, not at this time. We're receiving this report and putting our pens down on the recommendation for us at this point has been before you is to receive this report. Should in the future council direct us to look to doing a cultural heritage landscape study, but at this point, the direction from council and the work that we're doing is to pursue the urban design guidelines.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks. Jeff, and then Adam.
Yes, I noticed the reference to the 6 listed properties, and there seems to be no intention to move forward with designation on those. They'd simply be monitored. But thanks to, I think it's Bill 23, they'll lose that listed status as of December 31, 2026. So would you not be wise to proceed with designation now as part of the priority listing of properties to be designated?
Jeff, for those of you who might not know, there has been a separate activity or initiative under the Bill 23 for legacy listed properties, and the prioritization for those is citywide. And so if in fact anything that is identified through that process we're prioritizing before January, not this January, January 27, it will be part of that. Otherwise, as Pooria has mentioned, that with the identification of the properties through the Urban Design Guidelines report that's going to City Council next week. Those properties would be subject to OPA 720 should a planning application come in, that the owner would actually present us with a cultural heritage evaluation, and that would stimulate the staff review to look to whether or not we would designate. But it's not a proactive designation resulting from this study unless it is part of the comprehensive citywide Bill 23 legacy listed properties.
Thank you. Adam, you were next on the speakers list, and then Peter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To phrase the question succinctly, what next with this district? If community members or panel members are interested in pursuing heritage protection of certain buildings, do you recommend that we send in individual nominations? I see that there's a list of recommended or potential heritage properties. Are those going to be captured within a prescribed event net, for example, the same way that a nomination would? Should we, as the preservation panel, be going through and submitting nominations for buildings that we feel within the study area should have received heritage status but didn't? What would staff recommend? And the same for any community organizations or community members that may be tuning in.
This has been extensively studied. I think if you can see the HCD study itself, as well as there's been follow-up or individual work. Staff are always welcome to receive a nomination if a community expresses something that we didn't capture through our probably 3-4 years of study. Always has the opportunity for that. But I would say that this is one of the areas that has been extensively studied, and I would suggest that at this point there's not a, unless you see that there's some impetus, I would say that the panel could focus on other areas of the city.
Now to Peter.
I've got a two-part question. So I understand OPA 720 would require a share to be provided for these potential heritage properties with a development application, but what about a demo permit application?
Share is not required. We're constantly looking at, as part of our overall strategy we have as operational, we're always looking at triggering of things that come through. It's part of our day-to-day business.
Okay, so I know one of the aspects of a property being listed is that the owner has to give 60 days notice if they wish to demolish the property. So, if a demo permit was filed for one of these potential heritage properties, it sounds like, based on the protocols you've just described, staff would be notified and have enough time to take action to protect further if the property met the 906 criteria?
So, as you know, the provincial government has changed the Heritage Act legislation to say that listing is for 2 years, and so it has led us in this circumstance where very few municipalities are actively doing a comprehensive listing of properties anymore because they will expire in 2 years. So the city has done, as an alternative for ourselves right now, to capture those properties that we feel would be part of an integrated development application through a prescribed event, being an OPA, rezoning, or a plan of subdivision. Building permits, et cetera, is something we do monitor and we look for, but it is the reality of how the legislation has changed.
Other questions? Adam.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. This area of the city has one of the largest Ukrainian diasporic populations in all of Ontario, if not the largest. I'm just wondering if any materials were made available in the Ukrainian language, whether during oral community meetings or in writing between those meetings.
No, but we did speak with the Ukrainian community on a variety of times when they would come to any of our public consultation, and there didn't seem to be a language barrier for those who attended us. We do, in some circumstances, when we're doing studies such as Kensington Market, we've issued our material accordingly, but at this point, we didn't feel that that was necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you very, very much. Discussion amongst ourselves. Paul.
I wanted to make a couple of points. One is simply, I would hate for anyone to see this report go forward and reach the conclusion that the report found that there was no heritage character to Bloor West Village. Very clearly, as we heard from the presentation, there's a very rich heritage character to the district. It just doesn't come out in the way that Part 5 tells us we have to measure it. Part 5 basically says count buildings. And in this case, I don't dispute the number of buildings that are architecturally significant may be small, but the character of the built form generally does contribute to the Main Street typology. If anything, the buildings that aren't architecturally significant contribute every bit as much as the buildings that are. But that's how we do things. But I wouldn't want anyone to say, oh well, you know, we looked at heritage and dismissed it. It's not there. The other thing that I would say is germane here is that unquestionably Bloor West Village meets the Main Street typology and has for 100 years now. In fact, it's still a Main Street 100 years after it was built. And so we find ourselves, I find it a little paradoxical or ambiguous. Are we talking about heritage, as we often do, which is documenting and preserving the past and not wanting the past to slip away, versus are we doing urban planning and talking about what the street should be going forward, and how do we preserve the vibrance of the Main Street that is there? And in my mind, I realize that there's two separate streams for those things, but I can't pull them apart. To my mind, there are clear intersections and overlaps, and I think that has to be recognized. So all I can say is I support the technical quality of the report, but I think the bigger question for Bloor West Village is what happens next, and I just hope that the urban guidelines do it justice as preserving a vibrant Main Street, because it's one of Toronto's best, I think. Just my comments.
Thank you, Paul. Other discussion points? Seeing none, we have a staff report before us. Would anybody like to move to receive? I'm moving. Oh, moving to adopt. I need to get my lexicon in place. So would anybody like to move to adopt?
Madam
Peter.
Chair, should we have a recorded vote?
We don't, why?
Just given the significance of this being a heritage conservation district, the controversy around this item.
We certainly can, if that is your request. Sure. We're going to have a recorded vote, everybody. Peter has moved to adopt. If you are in favor, please raise your hand and I will call out your name. All those in favor? Peter, Alex, Karash, Matthew, Jeff, Katerina, Paul, Julia. All those opposed? Adam. The motion carries. Thank you very much. We are still figuring out the other items, so we're going to move on to PB 38.3, the University Avenue Cultural Heritage Landscape Study. Welcome, Anna.
Good morning, everyone. Again, it's Tamara Anson-Cartwright, Program Manager. Before we start this item, it's just wanted to set a bit of introduction before we proceed. So as we all look at December and think what's left for the year, we also look at what we've achieved. Last month, we completed with our consultants who are in the room, and I'd like to acknowledge them that they've come today to join us, that we completed this study after 2 years, and this cultural heritage landscape study. And I, in discussing with the completion of this report, I brought it to Mary McDonald's attention, and she and I thought it would be of great interest to the board, although as you can see, it's a presentation. It's about the findings of a consultant's study. It is actually not a staff report or item or recommendation. We just felt that, to be honest, we had some time in the agenda, and wouldn't this be a nice present to present, as I might say. I will go forward just to say also for ourselves that this is the end of the journey for our work on this study. There is more to be talked about, as I'm sure we'll hear from a speaker, and we can answer questions. Oh, is it Christmas carols?
For those of us who are attending virtually, surrounding the committee room has erupted in Christmas carols and song, and so we're just getting just to let everybody in on that little bit of fun.
Well, we will talk about University Avenue being a social value and celebration of gathering place. So with no further delay, and I'd like to pass this to Anna Martins, who will make the presentation. And we will then, I understand, have perhaps a speaker. So if you would indulge, Chair, we have my colleagues here from Urban Design that we will move away from this podium after the presentation and answer questions at the side. Thank you very much. Good luck, Anna.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Martins. I'm a heritage planner with a policy and research team, and I'll be presenting on item PB 38.3, the University Avenue Cultural Heritage Landscape Study. Next slide, please. The University Avenue CHL study was undertaken by City Planning as a technical document and foundational study for future planning, and provides guidance and a common understanding of the cultural heritage value of the Avenue, and more specifically, its public realm. Using a cultural landscape approach, the study examines the Avenue's evolution over time. Next slide, please. Pardon? Oh, louder? Sure. The study was undertaken by City Planning to gain an understanding of the history and cultural heritage value of University Avenue, and in particular the public realm between Adelaide Street West to the south and Queen's Park Crescent to the north, and this included the 12 landscaped central medians. The study was led by urban design and heritage staff at the city, with a consulting team comprising Common Bond Collective and DTAH. The study follows the process set out in the National Capital Commission working with cultural landscapes, as a cultural landscape approach was used. The study will inform future studies and activities pertaining to University Avenue, such as state of good repair projects, amongst other works. Next slide, please. The provincial policy statement provides policy direction on matters of provincial interest related to land use planning and development. The PPS defines a cultural heritage landscape as a defined geographical area that may have been modified by human activity and is identified as having cultural heritage value or interest by a community, including an Indigenous community. The area may include features such as buildings, structures, spaces, views, archaeological sites, or natural elements that are valued together for their interrelationship, meaning, or association. Next slide, please. To assess the heritage value of the cultural landscape, the study follows the process set out in the NCC's Working with Cultural Landscapes, which entails gathering information, both historic and current, and identifying cultural aspects and physical features of the place. This then feeds into the historic evolution and analysis, which then in turn informs the evaluation to determine if a cultural landscape has heritage value. The project team was Common Bond Collective with Ellen Kowalchuk and David Dio, the heritage consultants who undertook the research, stakeholder consultations, cultural landscape analysis and assessment, and proposed conservation objectives and recommendations. The team also included DTAH with Brent Raymond, who was the urban design partner in charge, Peter Fletcher Smith, the heritage landscape advisor, and Colin Berman, who was the urban design project manager. The study was a 2-year multi-step process which started in early 2024 with a review of background documents, including the art of the avenue published in the 1980s. Research, fieldwork, and consultations with building owners and users of properties fronting University Avenue informed the historical overview. This was followed by an analysis of the island's physical design, as well as the intangible associations and practices associated with University Avenue throughout its history. There was an integrity assessment completed, which, in keeping with the NCC, considered the strengths of the site's cultural ideas in addition to the integrity of the central median's design. The study area was then assessed as a cultural landscape using the criteria provided by the NCC guide. Based on the values identified, recommendations were made for the site within a cultural heritage landscape context. Next slide, please. So the study area for the study is the public realm on University Avenue between Adelaide Street West and Queen's Park Crescent, and includes the 12 landscaped central islands designed by Dunnington, Grubb, and Stenson, which were completed in 1964. This 1.4 kilometer stretch of University Avenue has a width of approximately 180 feet and is currently configured with multiple lanes for northbound and southbound movement. Its exceptional width provides space for the central median containing 12 islands of varying lengths. The study area also contains 6 public works of art or monuments, 5 of which are located on the islands and 1 on the grounds of the legislative building. While an assessment of the individual monuments was not part of the scope of work, a cultural analysis of their historical value as public art was completed as part of the study. The study also addressed the immediate surrounding context, which is the map to the left, outlined in blue, which includes adjacent properties on either side of the avenue, as well as the front lawn of the Ontario Legislative Building, Osgoode Hall, the Superior Court of Justice, and Toronto City Hall. The University of Toronto St. George campus is located to the northwest of the study area. And within the study area itself, there are a number of properties on the city's heritage register. Next slide, please. The study area also includes protected views of the Legislative Building from Queen Street West, looking north from both the northwest and northeast corners of Queen and University, as well as from the center of the avenue. The Legislative Building sits at its northern terminus. There are also key sections along the avenue with a concentration of hospitals north of Elm Street, judicial buildings closer to Queen Street, and financial buildings near Adelaide Street West. Next slide, please. The study included an assessment of the 12 islands, individually landscaped to designs by Dunnington, Grubb, and Stenson. The landscape proposal was started in 1948, delayed, and then completed in 1961, but modified following Metro Toronto's directives and completed in 1964. They are located in the central median of University Avenue from Queen's Park Crescent to Adelaide. The landscaped islands integrate modernist elements within the overall Beaux-Arts context of the central median. For these islands, a modernist geometric and dichromatic approach was taken that uses a common set of architectural elements and materials in a variety of combinations to create a unique design for each one. However, Beaux-Arts influences are also evident on some of the individual islands, with their symmetrical and formal geometries, and integration of fountains, reflecting pools, and monuments that emphasize linearity and axial relationships, as well as the use of plants as highly controlled and sometimes elaborate decorations. Next slide, please. So the assessment of the heritage value of the study area was based on the NCC's Working with Cultural Landscapes. The assessment concluded that the study area's heritage value related to a number of criteria, which include historical, scientific, cultural, and social value. However, the assessment concluded that the study areas did not meet the aesthetic value criterion, and this assessment was completed jointly by both Common Bond and DTAH. Next slide, please. So the study determined that University Avenue is a cultural heritage landscape. It is an evolved landscape whose various configurations over time reflect over 100 years of transformation while remaining a landmark civic avenue in Toronto. The avenue remains a significant urban design intervention that is unique in the city, and despite its evolution, it has largely retained its sense of grandeur and ceremony. The avenue's axial composition, the architectural containment, and the prominence of the legislative building at its northern terminus all remain evident and confirm the avenue's continuing civic importance. Beginning in 1829, the University of King's College, which is today U of T, purchased lands for a campus, which included present-day Queen's Park, as well as 2 approach avenues connecting to existing streets. University Avenue is laid out to Queen Street and College Street east to Yonge. In 1833, University Avenue and College Street are landscaped according to the 1830 plans of André Parmentier, a Belgian horticulturalist based out of Brooklyn. Parmentier created a grand, secluded processional approach to King's College based on European precedent. The design was based on a 120-feet thoroughfare configured with a central carriageway, flanked by treed boulevards and walkways on both sides. The width of the thoroughfare lent grandeur to the design, as did the double row of pink flowering trees shading each side, and the full length was fenced off from its surroundings. The avenue became a popular promenade for walking throughout the 1830s to the 1850s, as Toronto grew and existing accessible open spaces was disappearing. Gates were installed at the Queen Street entrance in 1833 to control access. The public were permitted, but all commercial traffic was prohibited. By 1858, University Avenue had become an important urban amenity as park space for Torontonians and was related as parkland to Queen's Park and College Street through a lease to the city, becoming British North America's first municipally operated park. In 1881, the adjacent Park Lane, which later becomes the eastern lanes of University Avenue, is integrated. A significant redesign of University Avenue in 1913 integrated the parkway with the surrounding urban fabric, reversing decades of separation and allowing cross streets to pass. In 1931, urban design guidelines are passed by bylaw, and University is extended south to Front Street, and the off-central median is formalized by the city's park department. Next slide, please. In 1947, the city authorized the widening of University Avenue between Queen and Queen's Park Crescent. Park Lane was widened to accommodate northbound traffic, and the wide boulevard between it and the avenue was reduced to its present width. This radical change to the median prompted the Toronto City Planning Board to approach the landscape architecture firm of Dunnington, Grubb and Stenson about designing a layout for the reconfigured median. In 1950, City Council adopted a proposal to proceed with minimal decorative treatment of the central boulevard on University Avenue. In the early 1960s, Metro Toronto hires Dunnington, Grubb and Stenson again to prepare a landscape treatment, and the design was premised on public access to the islands. The design bears similarity to the 1948 design. In 1964, the subway opens, and the central landscape islands are completed. This landscape treatment and street configuration is what remains today. Next slide, please. So in the following slides, I'll be presenting the summaries of the assessment of the heritage value of the study area based on the NCC's guide to working with cultural landscapes. So first, University Avenue has historical value for its role in the development of the city, the province, and the nation. It has cultural value as a landmark civic avenue in Toronto. The landscape is considered one of the city's most important streets with a unique context, form, and history of public use that supports ideas and practices about public identity and citizenship within the city and beyond. Since 1833, when University Avenue was laid out as a grand ceremonial route to King's College, it has attracted institutions and businesses that were significant in the development of Toronto as the financial, scientific, and judicial center of Ontario, and in some instances of the country. Beginning in the 1930s, several Canadian businesses in banking and insurance located their headquarters on University, helping Toronto position itself as the financial capital of the country. It has attracted numerous hospitals, making Toronto a center of medical treatment and research in Ontario and Canada. And finally, it has played an important role in the development of Ontario as a civil society. It contains several buildings associated with the legislative and judicial branches of government, notably the Legislative Building and the Southern Grounds, Osgoode Hall, and the Superior Court of Justice. Lastly, it reflects the influence of Beaux-Arts design principles as a wide avenue with a symmetrical layout and strong axial relationship with the landmark Ontario legislative site. Next slide, please. So University Avenue contributes to Toronto's identity as the city's most prominent street. The avenue has been considered an exceptional element of Toronto's urban environment since its completion in 1833, and its evolution since then has been informed by this awareness. The street's prominent profile in Toronto has resulted in consistent efforts over the years to cultivate a landscape of high quality. These factors lend a coherent and consistent quality to the study area, giving it a distinct identity within the city. It also contributes to Toronto's identity as the provincial capital, as a ceremonial approach to the Ontario Legislative Building and Queen's Park, and the relationship to provincial governance is also reflected by provincial institutions and buildings in surrounding context. The University Avenue cultural landscape's contributions to Toronto's identity are also in part supported by its important history as a public amenity space designed for public use. This use began as parkland in the 1830s before being formalized in 1858 by the city as part of the first municipal park in British North America. After parkland gave way to vehicles in the early 20th century, Dunnington, Grubb, and Stenson intended to reintroduce public access through their designs. As a place for public art and commemoration, University Avenue also contributes to the public identity at the municipal, provincial, and national levels. Next slide, please. The 12 landscaped islands along the central median, designed by landscape architects Dunnington, Grubb, and Stenson, and finalized in 1961-1962, marked an important point in the firm's history. Not only was it a prominent and large-scale project for the firm, the design of the landscape islands reflected its move from private estate work to public projects, as well as the modernist influence of J.V. and Janina Stenson on the firm's design approach. Designed by Howard Dunnington Grubb, whose early work was rooted in Beaux-Arts traditions, the islands reflect a shift in his practice toward the aesthetics of modernism that were emerging in the 20th century, in the mid-20th century, landscape architecture, while remaining resistant to its overall ethos. Next slide, please. The study, however, concluded that the design of the 12 medians did not or does not have aesthetic value, as they do not reflect defined or notable architectural styles or landscape concepts. The study found that the University Avenue cultural landscape does not reflect a single landscape concept, but a combination of approaches that are ideologically contradictory. The application of modernist aesthetics over decorative Beaux-Arts foundation, which betrays modernism's foundational rejection of historical styles. Similarly, the decorative design tendencies, including the choice of plantings, are at odds with the modernist principle of functionalism. These contradictions impact the ideological coherence of the overall design, reflecting modernism as decoration rather than philosophy. An additional condition impeding the aesthetic value of the central median designs is its limited functionality as a public amenity space. After the 1964 installation of the medians, the Ontario Association of Architects' response was not favorable and recommended planting large and massive trees in an informal manner down the center of the islands, essentially ignoring the landscaping which they had hoped would eventually disappear. In contrast, examples of landscapes with robust modernist approaches include nearby Nathan Phillips Square, designed in 1965, and the McMurtry Gardens of Justice, designed in 1966. Next slide, please. The study area and the immediate context has scientific value as a place where internationally significant discoveries have been made. The area is an important source of scientific research and study and a place where world-leading discoveries have been made. This is due to the presence of hospitals since the early 1900s in the study area and immediately adjacent areas, as long as their long-standing research and educational relationship with the University of Toronto. Today, the research and scientific community includes the University Health Network, Sick Kids Hospital, and Mount Sinai Hospital. Next slide, please. So the study area also has cultural value for its cultural traditions of public assembly related to democratic and cultural expressions. University Avenue functions as an important space for formal public assembly in Toronto, having served as a venue for parades, celebrations, and demonstrations since the 1850s, if not earlier. The landscape's unique size, quality, and adjacent institutional nodes make it a suitable and prominent space for gatherings that express identity, celebrate and exercise fundamental rights related to freedom of assembly and speech. The public performance of these rituals is an important element of citizenship in Canada and democratic society, and imbues the cultural landscape with additional meaning as a civic avenue. Next slide, please. So these values that I've just run through, as well as the tangible heritage elements that are significant to University Avenue as a cultural heritage landscape, were articulated in the study's statement of cultural heritage value. The study proposed the following elements of the public realm that contribute to the value of the University Avenue cultural heritage landscape. And they include the ongoing ability of the landscape to be used for large public assemblies, reflecting democratic and cultural practices, and the ability of the avenue to be used as a public amenity space. Its circulation system, including its width, its length, its north-south orientation, and axial relationship to the legislative building. Its spatial organization, the formal configuration of the right-of-way as a landscape public space with, once again, its axial relationship to Queen's Park. Its Beaux-Arts features, public art and monuments, its prominent context, its visual relationships, and its relationship to adjacent institutions and landscapes. Next slide, please. The study also proposed a boundary for the University Avenue cultural heritage landscape, and it is the public realm from Queen's Park Crescent to Adelaide Street West, as shown on the map to the right. Next slide, please. Finally, the study made a number of recommendations, including that Council recognize University Avenue as a cultural heritage landscape, and second, the city to develop a conservation strategy for the University Avenue, CHL. And lastly, the 1960s island medians designed by Dunnington, Grubb, and Stenson do not demonstrate design value as per the criteria to merit conservation. Next slide, please. In closing, I think if you'd like more information on the study itself, you can visit the city's Planning Studies webpage, where you'll find volumes A and B of the study, or you can click on the hyperlinks on this particular slide. Any questions you may have can also be sent to me, Anna Martins, at the City of Toronto. This concludes the presentation on the study. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have a speaker registered on this item, so I will proceed there in just a moment. But first, I would like to just applaud the work of the staff and the consultants for a tremendous, tremendous piece of work that has taken so much time and effort, and it was just well done. Thank you very, very much. So before we move on, I know that questions are going to be taken over here, but we'll move to our speaker on the list, Sue Dexter. Sue, you have 5 minutes to speak, and I will let you know when you have about 15 seconds left.
Sure thing. Thank you, Chair. I'm Sue Dexter. For years, my association, and I don't see my picture here. I don't seem able to give you that. Imagine me then. For years, my association and residents' associations adjacent to Queen's Park have been working to preserve the cultural heritage landscape of the Queen's Park precinct. We were both astonished and delighted to read of the University Avenue median study that is before you today. It is a good and welcome start for the protection of southern elements that will be an intrinsic part of University Park. But it does not extend to address the urgent needs to the north, the Queen's Park precinct. The excellent presentation and visuals in our letter show both north and south elements of Queen's Park flow historically as one. Our concern is that protection will be provided for elements in the south while losing the north. This has become a particular matter of urgency with the very generous offer of $50 million by the Weston family to the City of Toronto. It's intended for the revitalization of Queen's Park North, plus funding for long-term maintenance and programming of the park. This incredible donation is to be directed to the protection and enhancement of the 350-year-old oak savanna landscape that was so precious to Hillary Weston. Instead, from what we have seen in consultations, meetings, and in surveys, the Parks Department, which has carriage of implementation, is putting forward plans for big moves, built structures, and animation of up to 1,000 people. These threaten the park as a center of natural respite that is so valued in the community. Included will be a governance agreement with the city. This could permit changes in use, including commercialization with little reference to heritage. This is a watershed moment. That motion could be through council and approved within weeks. We've been engaged on the park, but have heard nothing about the study to the south, even though they are historically and programmatically directly linked. If University Avenue and Queen's Park are treated in isolation, we risk the survival of the Queen's Park precinct as a cultural heritage landscape. We last appealed to this board in 2020. At the time, hundreds of residents and RAs were concerned that a University of Toronto development proposal at 78 to 90 Queen's Park West would have a negative impact on Queen's Park Cultural Heritage District precinct. That record is TE 19.3. The Preservation Board of the day unanimously moved a motion in support, requesting council direct staff to defer action on the university proposal until a comprehensive study of the Queen's Park cultural heritage landscape was complete. City Council agreed, directing staff immediately undertake a cultural heritage landscape study of the Queen's Park precinct. That's seen in members' motion 28.35 in 2021 and is given in a city solicitor report to the Preservation Board in 2021. 4 years later, nothing has been done. There's no time to waste. Recognition of the Queen's Park precinct as a cultural heritage landscape or as a designation of Queen's Park North, as is now proposed for the south, will ensure all proposed interventions are carefully evaluated to achieve the right balance and will do no harm for the conservation of this special place. The research that would be needed is already available through heritage impact studies already prepared for Queen's Park North and other applications. We seek your help. We request you take this opportunity to join the two halves of the precinct and lend your support to our request that the cultural heritage landscape study in the north begin and the park remain protected until it's complete. At the very least, you could attach our letter and request to the study
10 seconds.
That is before you. One last thing on animation. Several years ago, around 2019, the city had to close the park and embark on $1 million restoration done by planning partnership because the levels of use threatened the survivals of the trees. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions for our speaker? Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Sue. Sue, what would you like to see happen in an ideal world here?
In an ideal, we need...
In terms of the Queen's Park precinct, I'll specify that.
We would like an agency of the city to basically create a protection, a heritage protection over that landscape. Otherwise, if you start losing big elements, you've lost the whole thing. So you have the historic houses, you have the educational institution, the checklist you've seen in the present report. Had the present report been done on the north, we would be in a very different situation, which is heritage would have to be front and center to the discussion of what to do with Queen's Park.
Thank you. Other questions for our speaker? Seeing none, thank you very much for your time today, Sue. We're going to move on to questions of staff. Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What is the mechanism that we'll see in terms of, we have this wonderful report before us. How does this translate into actual protection of this landscape or this cultural landscape or cultural corridor? For example, will we be seeing, or should we anticipate seeing, individual designations of boulevards and monuments? Will we be seeing designations of more buildings? What is the mechanism? And this does have applicability for what Sue's proposing for the North Queen's Park precinct, but what is the actual mechanism where we'll see this policy of this report translated into action or translated into actual legal protection?
I can answer that question. This is, at this time, is a presentation of the conclusion of a consultant's report, so it's in the final phase. There isn't anything at this time that we're imagining to action further. It's an incredible background material. Should we move ahead as a city and having more direction from council to do further study for the University Park or other matters, we will look at it. But at this point, it's we're presenting today as a consultant's findings.
Other questions for staff? Alex. You're muted, Alex.
My apologies, I'm having technical problems today. This may be an impossible question to answer, I suspect it is, but I was really somewhat amazed to find that the report completely dissed the central media in terms of design values and integrity. What would possibly be done to replace them, or is that likely to happen? And I mean, it's a somewhat difficult situation, I would think, because it's in the middle of two very busy sides of traffic, but what can be done for this valueless area?
This is Janet Lee, Urban Design. So regarding the aesthetic and design value, as per the criteria, what the consultant's findings are that it's not a single coherent style or landscape concept. That's the criteria you have to follow. And what is interesting is that the design was started before modernism, 1948, with a designer, very good designer, Howard Dunnington, who was a Beaux-Arts, spent most of his career doing that. Then when the design was retaken up by the city in 1960s, so that's when modernism was starting, there was a kind of combination of both modernist and Beaux-Arts styles. So it's not a single coherent reading. So while it's very interesting to look at historically, it doesn't follow those criteria. In addition, there's some integrity issues, as well as we all probably know there's a functionality issue with the way it works, especially for pedestrians now that there's increased car traffic and whatnot. So we, as Tamara said, there's no plans. Anything that would be planned for change would need a conservation strategy in place. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten the second part of your question.
Well, I think maybe you've somewhat answered my question, but I'm just curious as to what is likely to replace it. Is it going to be a gradual evolution of changing islands one at a time, or? It's a massive job to do the whole.
Yeah, there is a document, a whole body of documents for TO Core that discussed from 2018 up to 2023 that also touches upon some of the Queen's Park North questions that we just heard earlier. So that envisioned a linear park on University Avenue, as well as a full integration with Queen's Park Precinct. So it would be one big open space. So that is all found online at TO Core, particularly the May 2018 report, and this was talked about as a great street. So that project is at present unfunded for all the environmental assessment types of studies that would need to occur for such a large project. It is also unfunded just for construction at present, but we do have council directions to look at preliminary studies, to work with donors and that sort of thing. So at present, there's no action items, but this is a very necessary foundation document should there be changes proposed in the future.
Right, thank you very much.
Jeff.
Yes, a couple of questions. First of all, I'd like to thank the deputant, Sue Dexter, very much for bringing forward the issue around the Queen's Park North. Some of us are aware of this generous donation, but I think, frankly, as a member of the public, you tend to think of this Queen's Park Crescent as all part of the University Avenue landscape. And it's extremely disappointing as an observer that piece of it up to Bloor was not included in the Cultural Heritage Landscape Report study. So my question, first of all, is can the Heritage Landscape, Cultural Heritage Landscape study be extended? Ms. Dexter says that ERA has the material to, basically, it seemed like she was saying it has the material to complete extending the study fairly quickly and readily. So that would be my question. Can that be done within a timely period? And secondly, will Heritage be participating in the Parks-led project to look at the future of the Queen's Park North and the precinct, and be playing a role on to ensure that conservation is a prime element and not just as indicated there's some possibility for inappropriate development might get considered. Most of the questions.
So I can answer the first question, and I see our colleague from Parks is here, David O'Hara. So I will answer the first one. The study was initiated through a council decision in June of 2023. At that time, as part of the University Park, there was actually, as part of that motion, the item that said to pursue and support preliminary studies for a portion of University Park between College and Adelaide Street. This was in June of 2023. It was on that basis that we initiated and sought a consultant to work with us in commencing in January of 2024. And so as this study is at its final phase, the consultant's work is done. If there is any idea about expanding a boundary, it would actually require the direction from council. We cannot do it through this study itself. With respect to cultural heritage and our collaboration with parks is ongoing. David, I think I see you too many times. You're a lovely fellow, but no, all joking aside, we do many cultural heritage studies, be it Toronto Island, et cetera. So David, there is a lot of questions arise from the speaker, but also from the board. If you could just speak to where things are at with the Queen's Park Crescent and Queen's Park North, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Tamara, and hi, everyone. Dave O'Hara, I'm the manager of park design and parks and recreation. And I was around the table for the University Avenue work, working with Tamara and Janet and others. And so we certainly plugged into that. And we are, of course, aware of Teal Core and the broader University Park vision. We're not directed to advance that right now. What you saw in the presentation was a background study, really trying to get out ahead of things. So we had some more information on the University Avenue portion south of College. The Queen's Park North project, of course, came quickly at us. as a result of the donation. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and we certainly understand Mrs. Dexter's concerns, and we've been working very closely with community planning, heritage planning, and others on Queen's Park North. We've actually done a comprehensive heritage context report with ERE Architects, which is what Mrs. Dexter is referring to. We've got great work for Queen's Park North, and it's informing everything we're doing there. And it'll be really valuable as we do move eventually in the future, move into anything related to the park. We are handling Queen's Park North with a very light touch. Buildings, we need washrooms in the park. And we're very much aware of not overcrowding the park. Trees are first and foremost. So we're leading with cultural landscape and heritage as foundational for Queen's Park North, and we'll continue working with everyone on all of that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for attending, David. Other questions for staff? Seeing none. Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering if, as part of the study, was an assessment, a condition assessment of the monuments along the boulevards conducted. I was dismayed a few months ago to see the Sir Adam Beck monument, which commemorates our hydroelectric system, quite literally held together with electrical tape. And a number of the other monuments have had patchwork repairs over the years. So was any sort of assessment done for the condition of these monuments as part of this report? Or is that something you anticipate doing in the future?
We've talked and worked with economic development staff who have carriage of those monuments. So they have very detailed conditions assessments of those items, and they're not included in this report. But if you have concerns, particularly that, I can forward that to them.
Thank you. Our preservation panel was in contact with them directly. I was just curious if it made its way over to this report.
Other questions of staff? Seeing none, we're moving into discussion amongst ourselves. Does anybody have any comments? Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's wonderful to see both the natural and the built heritage included in this report. So often we see one without the other, and it so often tends to be the built heritage rather than the natural heritage. I'm still hopeful that we'll eventually see a heritage tree program at the City of Toronto, and one hopes that perhaps Queen's Park could pave the way for a foundation for that program, especially as they have the Trees of Queen's Park program in partnership with the Royal Ontario Museum. So thank you for including the natural heritage as part of this report as well.
Other points of discussion? Seeing none, I think all I will say is, in a thanks to our speakers, I think we see a very real and present need for continued dialogue about how the North and the South speak to one another and protections for the North. But I think the responses to the questions have made us, at least it's made me very aware that the city is very alive to this rich heritage and this rich part of the city. And I think for the moment, we have a study before us about University Avenue, which we haven't had before, and that's tremendous to understand it in and of itself, and now we can start to move forward, and it's a marvelous first step that way. So again, thank you. I have a staff report before us, and I need a motion to receive, please, from Jeff. All those in favor? The motion carries. Thank you very, very much. Moving on now back to PB 38.1.
Yep, I think we're good with the motion.
We are good, Adam?
Yep.
All right, so we're just letting clerks sort of get things all up. Adam is going to move a motion on this. We're going to have some discussion about it, and then we'll move forward on that front. Yeah, please. So Adam is moving this motion, and it's going to get displayed, and I will attempt to read it. There we go. That the Toronto Preservation Board recommend that City Council direct that its consent to the application to alter the designated properties at 409 Huron Street under Part 4, Section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act is also subject to the following conditions. That revised drawings are submitted that consider preserving more than 2.5 meters of the line of sight of the north elevation of 409 Huron Street from the public right-of-way to the satisfaction of the Senior Manager, Heritage Planning, Urban Design, City Planning. All right, so Adam, do you want to say anything to your motion and then we'll discuss? Okay, please do.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we saw earlier today, there are 2 or 3 different angles depicted on the renderings and the architectural plans. This is a prominent property on the end of a block. It is the last of a row of historical and heritage houses in an area of special identity. At present, if you're standing on the public right-of-way to the north, you see only 2.5 of the 11.5 meters of the north elevation of the heritage component of the house, which is a heritage attribute. I'm hoping that with this motion, we can see more of that north elevation line of sight preserved. I also hope that this also improves the overarching appearance of the heritage property as to not dwarf it out with the contemporary addition.
Are there any questions for Adam or discussion where we'll sort of flow back and forth with respect to the proposed amendment? Seeing none, we have Adam's motion to amend before us. Adam has moved it. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. We have 6, 7. 7. All those opposed? 2. Okay, so the motion carries. We now move into discussion of the report as amended. Any discussion? Adam?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also hoping that alongside this, what looks like a wonderful forthcoming restoration of this important Huron Sussex heritage building, we see some potential on-site commemoration of its history. Not only was this a private residence, and not only has it been a student residence, but for many years, this was the headquarters of many dairy-related industries and part of the Spadina dairy corridor, which is part of our industrial heritage. I encourage further examination of, and I hope there's a potential opportunity for partnering with Heritage Toronto.
Have a staff report with recommendations as amended before us. Would anybody like to move? I will. All those in favor? And that's everybody. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And that concludes our business today. One final thing. Our very own Tamara Anson Cartwright, who is now blushing, won the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals Lifetime Achievement Award. And I can think of nobody who is more deserving. And it's really lovely to conclude our 2025 business on such a high note with such tremendous work from the entire year. Thank you to my fellow members for showing up every month or twice a month, to clerks for putting up with us, for staff for everything that you do. I wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday season, and I'll see you back in January where we might or might not have snow. Who can say? The meeting is adjourned.